back! So sorry guys, I probably should have mentioned this in the last video, but every year after E3 I'm going to take like a month hiatus from YouTube just so I can focus on me, social life. I'm trying to get better at my artistic skills, playing around with some watercolors, so sorry about that. But I'm back now! And with me being back, I finally beat Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. If you're new here, you should know I'm a huge Legend of Zelda fan. And what kind of Legend of Zelda fan would I be if I never played Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past? A game praised by gamers everywhere. A game that set the standard for Legend of Zelda games. A game that is set to be the best Legend of Zelda game even to this day. A lame one. While most gamers started with Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, I actually started with Ocarina of Time, so I'm a little bit more partial to the 3D games. But as of July 16, 2016, I have finally played and beat this difficult but amazing game. This game originally came out in 1981 for the SNES, and I can't believe I just played it. I'm like 35 years plus behind. But I downloaded it from the Nintendo eShop and played it on my new 3DS. So, let's run through why this game is so loved and respected, coupled in with my 2 cents. So immediately trouble's going down in the land of Hyrule as you hear Zelda's voice telling you that they're locked in the dungeon. Your uncle tells you not to leave as he hurries to the castle. Naturally, you disobey to run off to the castle and find your uncle fatally wounded. He says it's up to you to save Princess Zelda. You save her by taking her to the sanctuary, and there it's explained that you need to gather the Master Sword. Pretty much a wise man can help you, aka explain that you need the pendants of courage, power, and wisdom. Typical Legend of Zelda setup: get yourself some fancy necklaces, grab yourself a sword worthy of a master, and save yourself a princess. Or not. Instead, upon facing the evil wizard Aghanim, and as victory is right in your grasp, you're teleported to the Dark World, where 7 maidens, related to the sages, are being held captive. Save the maidens, save Zelda, and save Hyrule. Sounds simple enough. Now, another thing to take into account is, unfortunately, I played Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds before I played this game. Now, Link Between Worlds is an excellent game, and is much easier than Link to the Past, that's for sure. My issue is, because Link Between Worlds is super similar to Link to the Past, I felt my experience was cheapened, especially at the start. It wasn't until I got to the Dark World that I started to really get into the game, that I actually felt it was a completely different game. Another thing I had to completely remind myself of was Link to the Past came first. Constantly throughout the game, I had to flip-flop my mind. Instead of saying, oh snap, these guards, ogres, Molderworm, they're all from Link Between Worlds. Wait, no, bring it back. This is straight up from Link to the Past. Now, what began to pull me away from Link Between Worlds and into Link to the Past is the Expedition, and how nothing was simply bought and handed to you. Link to the Past is a top-down action-adventure game. You head to dungeons, fight enemies while exploring and taking on mini-quests to enhance Link's health or items. What made this game stand out to me was the exploration aspect. In fact, the primary reason Legend of Zelda is my favorite series of all time is because of the adventure. I absolutely love open world exploring, discovering new items, hidden powers, meeting new characters, and uncovering character stories throughout mini-quests and all the like. And man, this game had an arsenal. I was incredibly impressed with how I could quote-unquote get dungeon items while just exploring random caves or getting lost in such a large world map. It felt like there were secrets waiting to be uncovered in every section of the map. Whether you had the means to uncover said secret at that time is a different story. I swear, this game is like the original Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild right here. The biggest puzzle-solving piece in Link to the Past is the ability to travel between the light and dark world through a magic mirror and hidden portals. This is important because there are certain areas that can only be reached through the light world that you'd only be able to get through by traveling from the dark world and vice versa. Pay close attention to your surroundings in both worlds, for it may lead the way to the next chapter in your adventure. The dungeons in this game are some of the best in the Legend of Zelda series. First, what makes this game amazing is you can do dungeons out of order. You may not get very far because certain items are needed and can only be found from certain dungeons. Or on the flip side, you could get all the way to a boss battle, but without one certain item, you'll be unable to defeat that boss and have to come to that dungeon later. Because I didn't want to take any risks, I just did everything in order. I have to say, I was extremely impressed and challenged by the dungeons. I honestly thought it'd be a walk in the park because Link Between Worlds was such a breeze, but oh no. No, I was wrong. These puzzles are littered throughout Hyrule, and they put your mind through the test, and they made you experiment with unusual items and get unusual effects. Also, trying out different strategies for different enemies. It was really the puzzles. As simple as they may seem, they were really thought out, and the enemies were well placed for extra danger. And the boss battles to this game were rough. I can maybe count on like one hand how many bosses I beat without using any items on my first try. It was crazy because it wasn't your typical 3-hit kill monster, nor was there any waiting for an opening like I'm accustomed to. One thing that made the boss fights super cool was they could have been easier depending on what items you have and had leveled up. Example being, if you're like me and you didn't have the red shield which repels fireballs, this guy was probably super difficult. And he was. My only issue, my one complaint, is the hitbox. Okay, sometimes I just didn't understand how certain moves of mine didn't hit or certain enemies' moves hit me. Like, I recorded, look at it, there was fire on one side and I was on the other side and I still got hit. How does that even work? It happened multiple times and it was just so frustrating. Other than that, I don't really have any complaints about the battle system. Apparently that's just an SNES thing and not just a Link to the Past thing. I don't know, it's stupid. Stupid things hitting me. Jerks. Next we go to the graphics, which were amazing, especially for its time. For me, the first thing I noticed were the character designs, which conveyed a lot of detail for being pixelated. It even had some shading going on. Your surroundings were well detailed, and certain areas of the maps really popped from the bright colors. It had some nice foresty green to the muddy color when you travel to the mountain or the desert. Unlike Hyrule Field and Ocarina of Time, which felt very empty, Link to the Past did a great job filling in spots with grass, hidden secrets, enemies, and NPCs. The music had your classic Legend of Zelda themes as usual, Hyrule themes, Kakariko Village theme, Great Fairy theme. These are just timeless themes that are must in any Legend of Zelda game. I was a little bummed that all the boss fights had the same theme, but stills. And there were only 2 dungeon themes, one for the Light World dungeons and the other for the Dark World. Nothing really jumped out at me. By all means, the music fits, it's good, it's just nothing out of the ordinary for a Zelda game. Thus, no favorite at this time. Alright, so Legend of Zelda Link to the Past, I will give it a salty 9.99 out of 10. I have like there's just a dash of salt in me because the hitbox thing. Just the hitbox made me so angry. There are just certain things where I didn't understand why I got hit or why I didn't hit things, and that just... And I have never tried so hard in a Legend of Zelda game before to not get hit by anything, because when you have like full hearts and when you swing your sword, you do like a projectile sword thing, and I like love that. I needed that in my life, and anytime I got hit, it just threw that off, and I just got so angry. So maybe it is the 10. I'm just being a little took this a little personal. But everything else in this game is fantastic. It's challenging, it stimulates the minds, it's action-packed. It's just a little bundle of timeless fun, and I understand why people love this game, and I actually do understand and reluctantly agree with it's better than Ocarina of Time. I don't know, don't quote me on that, I might change my mind. It's safe to say it's probably on my top 5 favorite Legend of Zelda games. The order fluctuates. I mean, Majora's Mask is generally number 1, but then there's Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time, Minish Cap, and then Link to the Past. So those are probably my top 5 favorite Zelda games. And after finally fully being able to play this game, I feel like I can comment on when people said that Link Between Worlds is pretty much a remake of Link to the Past. I don't know if I could agree with that, because there are differences. While the similarities are very real with the same map and a few reused bosses, the experience became very different at a point. One, because in Link Between Worlds, you have all the items accessible, more or less. You just have to pay Ravio and whatnot. Where this game is just more like exploring. You could find dungeon items just randomly throughout the map. And it's like, oh shit, what does this do? Some of the items you literally just don't know what they did until you use them. Plus the enemies hit like a lot harder in this game. Like, I don't know, I was struggling. And the dungeons are different and a lot more difficult. This entire game is infinitely harder than Link Between Worlds. Thank you all so much for watching and sticking with me after my hiatus. Top box is more of my reviews, bottom box is my Let's Play channel. Just finished Life is Strange. That game though. Not sure what I'm gonna play next. I cannot tell a lie though, We Happy Few has my attention. But the description says horror, psychological horror, and as most of you guys know, I don't really get down with horror, but I did watch my friend play the 45-minute demo, and if the entire game is like that, like pretty chill, and not as horror as I thought, then I might be able to handle it. Or maybe not. I don't know. Okay, I lied. I actually like the boss battle themes. I think those are my favorite. It just makes me want to like fight pixelated monsters.